Good evening, fellow survivors. Welcome to Lesson 12 of the Walking Code, C++ programming during zombie apocalypse. In Lesson 12, we're going to learn about loops. What we're going to learn about loops is we're going to learn about why we want to use loops. We're going to learn another way to use these conditions we've been talking about. Not only can you use them in if statements, but you can use them in loops as well. We're going to learn about two different types of loops. There's more than two different types of loops, but we're going to look at two right now. Depending on the programming language you're using, there's three, if not four types of loops. They're not really that hard to keep straight. Think of the different types of loops as different types of screwdrivers. You have to know when to use which one, depending on what you're trying to do. You use a Phillips head for a Phillips screw. You use a slotted screwdriver for a slotted screw. You use a square head for a square head screw. And then you have your Allen wrenches and things like that. Which, is that a wrench or a screwdriver? I don't know. We'll leave that for other people to discuss. But why do we want to use loops? What is so great about a loop? Well, we use loops to repeat the same section of code until a condition is met. Like you're out of ammo, or do you want to shoot again? Do you want to continue the game? Yes or no? That's a loop. Alright. Some other loops that we might have is we loop continuously until a victory condition is met. Think of it like in game terms, if we're playing checkers or something like that. We loop through turns until the victory condition is met, which is all of my checkers are off the board. Or I surrender, or something like that. So loops are very beneficial in our programming. Alright, remember, sequence, selection, and loop are the three foundation blocks of programming. We've already gone through sequence, we've already gone through selection, which is our if statements, and now we're going through loops. Alright, the two types of loops that we're going to look at. The first type is going to be a while loop. The second type of loop is going to be a do loop. Alright, and there are several differences between these. We're going to call a while loop a pretest loop. Alright, and what I mean by pretest loop is that the test for the condition, the condition for the test on whether or not this loop should run is at the beginning of the loop. So it's going to test that condition before that loop is ever run. If that condition returns as false, it's not going to run any of the code within the loop. If that condition returns true, then it is going to run that code within the loop. A do loop is a little bit different. A do loop is called a post-test loop because a do loop is going to run the body of the loop once, and the condition for the do loop is at the end of the do loop. Okay, so it's called a post-test because the test is done after the loop body runs. Alright, and we're going to see an example or two of this. I have just some generic syntax for these two loops. A while loop. While this condition is true, it's going to run this section of code. This could be one line, it could be 2 lines, it could be 100 lines. As long as it's in between the curly braces, it's considered part of the loop body. Alright, now notice, just like with if statements, there is no semicolon after the closed parentheses, there's no semicolon after the open curly bracket, and there's no semicolon after the closed bracket. Alright, I want y'all to sit back and take that in for a second. Alright, and remember, this is a pretest loop. If we go back one slide, there we go, a pretest loop, because the condition is being tested at the top. If this condition is not true, meaning it's false, then it's going to skip this entire body of the loop, and it's just going to continue on with the code execution. All right. The next type of loop that we're going to talk about is the do loop. All right. Do, open curly bracket, do this. Again, it could be one line, it could be 100 lines, it could be 200 lines. We have our close curly brace. Then we have while, the word while, and then this condition is true. So while this condition is true, it's going to go back up to the top of the loop body, and it's going to run the loop again. Boop, boop. All right, until this condition is false, then it's going to quit running the loop. Now, notice here, there's a big change here in the fact that there's a semicolon after the open parentheses. That is not a typographical error. There is a semicolon there. I want everybody to pay attention to this. All right, and we're going to use do loops in our program to make an example of this. All right, this is really the only time you're going to see a semicolon after a condition, sort of. So just keep that in mind. You have to put a semicolon after the while condition. Why did they make it like that? Who knows? Okay. So keep that in mind. It screws with beginning programmers. I think it even screws with experienced programmers sometimes because you forget it. You're just so used to not putting a semicolon after closed parentheses, and you move on, and then you get a syntax error in your program. All right. Our program for this lesson is going to ask us if we want to shoot at the zombie again if we didn't hit it in the head. Remember, we said we had, what was it, a 1 in 6 chance to hit it in the head or something? And if we didn't hit it in the head, the program ended. And then we said at the end of the last lab, well, what if we wanted to shoot again? Well, this is how we're going to do it, right here with a loop. And we're going to be using a do loop in our program to make this happen. We can change it to a while loop if we want to. We might do that in the lab. I haven't made up my mind yet. But I look forward to seeing you in the lab for Lesson 12 of the Walking Code. My name is Adam Veazey. Thank you so much for viewing.